I got this small space above my miter saw station right beside the cabinet that I moved from the other wall. And I want to use it for something a little bit different. In a video on my other channel, I actually went through the design of this, showing exactly what I want to do. And in this video, I'm going to build it. So I get started by cutting biscuit slots in the parts. And then I'm going to cut some biscuit slots up in the cabinet as well, so that the biscuits will actually lock them together and keep everything aligned. So it's kind of tricky to get a clamp on here, but I have one of my can twist clamps, and I've just driven in a couple of screws for that to grip onto to pull it together. Particle board is a pretty good material for building stuff like this, but the edge is not very durable. It also doesn't look very good, so I figured I'd put a face frame on there. The face frame on the cabinet extends a little bit, so I've got to add shims to the side there to pack out the drawer slides, which I'll screw on here. These drawers are actually vertical, they're not horizontal, and one side is deeper than the other. That'll be the part that actually comes out first, you could say. And then the fold-out part is going to be about half the depth of that one. I assembled the narrow one in exactly the same way. I'm using 1/2-inch plywood for every part here and just gluing and nailing all the joints together. Then when I got both of them assembled, I can put one on top of the other and just double check the depth to make sure that they both fit inside that space. Next, I can get the deeper one installed by screwing it onto the drawer slides. I've got it set up on a piece of 1/4-inch plywood to space it up off the cabinet underneath it. I'll put a couple of screws in now, then I'll take the whole thing out and finish driving the rest of the screws. With that one installed, I can pull it all the way out, and this is where I realized the mistake that I made during the design process. I didn't realize that the deeper one actually doesn't pull out all the way. It extends back inside the cabinet to maximize the amount of space that I have there, and so the one that's not as deep has to be cut shorter. And luckily I didn't put any nails right where I need to cut. For the front of the cabinet, I'm going to use the same plywood that I used in the rest of the miter saw station, and that's 3/4 inch thick, and I'm going to cut it down to size on the table saw. It'll actually be 2 panels, so I'll take the first panel and I'll glue that and nail it onto the front of the drawer that's already in there. And then on the other door panel, I can install the hinge. And before I can screw that onto the other door, I need to pack out the front of that door with some strips of tape just to give me a little bit of space there. So when the thing opens all the way up, it won't bind. And then when all the screws are put in, I can get some glue on the edge of the other drawer and then fasten the other panel with a few brads. Okay, that brings us up to this point right here. I gave the glue overnight to dry. I'm going to take this out now because I want to do a couple things. I want to add a handle to the front, which I've already made, and that matches the other handles that I have here. And I also want to cut in slots for shelves on the deeper part. After I took it down, the first thing I did was I put edge banding around the fronts here to clean up the edge of the plywood. I didn't show that, but if you want to see how that's done, there's a link in the description. Next, I want to put on the handle, and I'm just going to glue and screw that on right pretty close to the edge here. So I'm going to hold it in place, and I'm going to drill through the back and drive screws through after I put on a bead of glue. Not strictly necessary, but I thought it would be a good idea to key these together so that when this one closes, it lines up properly with this one, mainly to keep it from sagging inside the cabinet. So what I'm going to do is just going to mark across here towards the end, and then I'm going to use my trusty biscuit joiner to cut a slot in both sides. One side I'll glue the biscuit in, the other side will just slip into. For the shelf pins, I'm going to use biscuits. I used this method before in another cabinet. It's perfect for this kind of thing because the shelves are small and you can do it with the thing assembled as long as you can get the biscuit joiner in there, that is. I've got a spacer here that's 5 inches, put that against the bottom, and that'll guide the biscuit joiner to make my first slot. Okay, I've got the drawer put back in, and I made a couple of shelves to fit in here because I figured out what I'm going to put inside this. It's going to be these 1-quart cans of paint. I'll put in as many as I possibly can, or at least the ones I use out here in the shop. Over here, I'm going to put spray cans. I don't keep very many of those here in the shop, but nice to have space to put them. Originally, I was storing them up in that cabinet up there, so I'll free up space up there that I can use for bigger stuff. So I've already made a shelf, and I've already marked where it goes, and I put some glue in the back, and I'll just slip that in. And it's a nice tight fit, so it'll stay in place until the glue dries. I can put the cans up there and very carefully open this up and hope that they don't fall over. Or I can put something in there that'll hold them. I've got a couple of pieces of bungee cord here. I'm just going to stretch across here, and that'll allow me to put the cans in and then pull them out as I need them.